Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Kremling.
And I'm Jimmy Stormblessed. Did you miss me? You thought? Just when you thought I was gone, they pull me back in. Today, we are diving into chapter 43 and 44. And Christian, this is full Stormlight spoilers, okay? So if you haven't read book 1, 2, 3, 4, and the novellas, I would get out of here if I were you. But, you know, Christian, I know you've read them, but you try to get rid of me. You auditioning other people on the show. What's going on, man?
I had the locksmith ready to change the locks, and you just snuck in right now and started recording. I'm still getting my bearings. But I was going to start you in the mailroom this week, and you're going to work your way back up.
Listen, we heard the outcry from the fans. They said, my God, this show cannot survive without Jimmy Stormblessed. No, we had our good friend Jake Bishop come on last week, and he was able to fill in for me as I had some other obligations. And Jake, if you're listening, you better be. We genuinely appreciate you coming on. And we had a ton of people reach out very, very high on Jake. Even some people saying they liked him more than me, which was hurtful. But that's okay. We're good. But no, in all seriousness, the episode was great. I listened to it, and I thought you two did well. I thought it was missing a little bit of pizzazz, as we say, for me. But you even read chapter summaries and everything. I was so proud.
Yeah, it turns out I can read if I really focus. I did realize, like, wow, Jimmy does something on this show. He's not just a pretty face on our non-visual podcast. But no, it was great having Jake on. Thanks for coming on, man. And but I won't lie, there was a gaping Jimmy Stormblessed size hole that no amount of Kremlings could fill. So it's good to have you back, mate.
About 6'1", 210 pounds of solid steel and sex appeal was missing from this show.
Oh my God. I was on board until this. See, this is why the mailroom's a good place. You know, just get through the span reads, pass them up to me. I'll take care of it. I'll take
the chain of command.
Yeah, that's it. How have you been though in your lovely break from the show? What's been going on?
Well, you know, we had Thanksgiving here over in the States, so I went over and to my family's house. We ate a bunch of food, and then I went to other family's house, ate a bunch of food, and then all of a sudden I'm up 5 pounds. Like, what am I doing here? And unfortunately, my staph infection came back, so I'm fighting that again. God. Yeah, which sucks, honestly. So I'm at the point now where if this infection does not clear up, actually, I have an appointment on Monday, as in tomorrow, as of recording this, and they're probably going to send me to a infection specialist, which I didn't know was a thing until they told me it was. And hopefully then I'll get some solid answers of like how to just completely kick this, because the recurring staph infection is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, geez, it's like the running B plot to our show.
Yeah, it's not something that you want just running amok, and especially for extended periods of time. Plus, being on antibiotics for so long, like, just absolutely wrecks your gut biome and whatever else. So I'm trying to get through that, but I did have a wonderful holiday and a good time. I was excited to hear the episode because I just wanted to be like, I wonder what it sounds like, you know, as someone who doesn't know what's coming. Like, I didn't know what was going to be said, right? Usually I do.
Yeah.
I listened back to the episodes. So I was kind of excited. And I had to say, it was very entertaining.
I'm glad. I mean, I can't. I struggle listening. Maybe you should do an episode with Jake so I can do this experiment and we'll see how it goes. But you know what I hear helps with staph infections? Heard some black olives. The black olives at the table, you've left them sitting there over Thanksgiving, and you got what was coming to you. That's all I'm hearing.
I don't even let them on the table. I keep them out of the house.
Were they there?
Absolutely not.
Oh, come on. No one.
If someone brings black olives to Thanksgiving, I'm throwing fists. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm pulling out the spear.
Yeah.
I'm hitting them with the shard blade and putting them in the dirt. I'm sending them to the Shadesmar.
What was your request? Wasn't it like
max salad?
Yeah. Did you have that?
Bro.
5 pounds of it?
I'm not even joking. My wife made 5 pounds and it's all gone. So,
oh my God.
I ate it over like 4 days.
People.
Yeah, my stomach didn't feel great. I ate so much mac salad, so much turkey, mashed, all the carbs and stuff. So,
yeah.
I found myself like looking forward because I talked about Thanksgiving on Bend the Knee as well, and I was like, I can't wait to talk about what I ate, which is kind of just shows you where my priorities are at.
On my Thanksgiving lunch.
Yeah. Lots of pie.
I was just away with some mates as well, and I cooked a pasta of epic proportions, and everyone was polite. I mean, now that I say it, I'm like, did they just not like it? But nobody wanted seconds. Maybe it was just that good. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to have leftovers. I will take the hit and just eat until I drop. So
Commitment.
we just know what's up here on Lost in Roshar.
I feel like seconds are kind of not fashionable anymore because everyone's trying to be, so healthy and conscious of their calories. So I feel like seconds are frowned upon now.
I just feel like more motivation to move, if I have a second.
I like to think of it as my ideal. I have my own ideal of gluttony, and I swear to it, and I abide by it, and I will take that brave first step back to the buffet line after I've already cleaned out a plate of nachos. I'm not afraid.
The words, Jimmy. Remember the words.
Remember the words.
I will go back for seconds.
Tubby, these words are accepted.
I want like every level of ideal for our food eating lack of self-control.
I mean, I can give you mine: gambling addiction, chronically overeating, being vain, staring in the mirror a lot. I mean, we can keep going on. Mine are really just the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah. Look, I think we start with what was it? I will always accept seconds. And then maybe I will find seconds even when there are none to be found. I'll come back with the third and fourth ideal. I'm working on it.
I feel like we just need like an animated version of me on the YouTube portion of this podcast eating like a Kremling.
No, that's just that's like
cannibalizing.
Host.
Cannibalizing me eating you.
Oh, God, it's what the people want. But speaking of that, for the audio only listeners, we've had a major visual upgrade on the YouTube channel, and out of that, I'm curious: are there any audio? Like, are there people who just know us on Spotify and don't know about the whole YouTube side of things? If you can respond to the Spotify comments, I'd love to know that, because I have no idea.
If you found us strictly through searching for a podcast about Stormlight, download it on your podcast app, send us an email at lostandroshar@gmail.com. We're very curious about this because I think you exist out there. I'm talking directly to you. I believe that you're out there. And it's just interesting because YouTube is like a whole nother thing, and there's like niches because of the algorithm. And I would love to hear success stories of people being like, I want to Stormlight podcast, and then looking up on Spotify, and lo and behold, they find a little bit of Christian Kremling and Jimmy Stormblessed on their Monday mornings, sometimes Tuesday.
Sometimes Wednesday and Thursday.
Sometimes Wednesday. It's tough. It's tough out here.
Look, the edit has got significantly larger. It's when I don't know why, but when how your file sizes get massive when you render on Final Cut, the last episode like bloated up to almost 90 gigs, and my laptop just freaked the hell out, and I had to delete so many old movies and all. It just it's not just. I thought it was just going to be us talking into a mic like an hour a week. Oh. Easy content.
That was the plan.
Definitely not the case. I've never worked harder on content in my life, but it's a good time, man.
Yeah, and shout out to Christian. He does all the editing on the audio. So when you guys hear this, it is enhanced and edited, and hopefully sounds crispy clean, especially compared to what our program gives us default out of the packaging. It doesn't sound this good. So Christian does a lot of stuff to make sure the show sounds professional and high grade.
Thanks, man. You know what irks me about that is like I feel like we kind of got it, but we got it on episode 2. So like our only subpar sounding app is the first one, and that's where everyone will go.
It still sounds better than most podcasts.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Yeah,
it was cool getting a Spotify Wrapped on the reverse side of it this year to see.
That should be our. We don't have a weekly poll this week, but I think that this is probably something that we should talk about because it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you? Is there a quick way to look at this? I was surprised. I was genuinely surprised at how many like top tens and top fives we were in for people.
Yeah, we were top podcast for 330 fans. So for 330 people, we were their number one podcast of the year. And 942 people had us in their top 5 listen to thing on Spotify. And 1,200 had us in the top 10. This show hasn't even existed for a year. And we're only talking about Spotify. That's, iTunes is still, or Apple Podcast, where they call it now, is still kind of king overall. But to have those kind of numbers on Spotify only a few months in, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'd love it. Just with all our analytics we get on the back end, there's no real clear idea of like the Lost in Roshar total audience between YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. I'd love to get a clean number, but alas,
same here.
We'll never know.
I saw someone asked like how many people listened in total on that post because you put on the community tab.
Yeah,
so that, like people are curious. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I said we hover around 2,000 an ep on Spotify.
Yes,
and then on YouTube, it kind of fluctuates. Like YouTube is very tumultuous. It really depends on the algorithm and the day and what other people are posting. But with the new visuals on YouTube, with the new rebranding of all the thumbnails, it looks like we're on an upward trajectory. So we'll see. And I also did a very clickbaity title with the Jake episode, which helps, just doing Stormlight 5 predictions, which were the last 10 minutes of the show, but still, it counts.
It does, and it all kind of ties in. I mean, we're being more informed as we go through the reread and whatnot. So it's all related when it comes to Stormlight.
Did you see we got like an official release date for book 5?
I did not, and I was going to say we're moving into the Sanderson update. I mean, Dragonsteel happened.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Big thing. So, what is the date?
Well, I think he said it at Dragonsteel. I don't know if he said it's on the first day or the last day of 2024 Dragonsteel, which is I think December 9th or December 7th. It's one of those. It's there somewhere.
Okay.
So we're about a year out, but it's going to release at Dragonsteel. And I was offering to Jimmy that it would be pretty glorious if 2 podcast hosts would saunter into the into the convention center.
If they would have me.
Yeah. I feel like once Jimmy walks into the building, he'll burst into flames.
There's a possibility. I'm always misbehaving. It's just a problem. Yeah, I mean, it seems like that event was a huge success. People were very, very excited. We got the extra. So we said it was a second prologue. Remember, I kind of said I think it's going to happen. It did, because I'm clairvoyant, obviously. But I saw someone say it wasn't a prologue, but an interlude. So is it an interlude or a prologue?
He read an interlude. Yeah, I think the prologue was him memeing on The Way of Kings. He read a new interlude, which was very, very cool, which related to almost every interlude from The Way of Kings that we've read so far. So that was very fun to hear. Maybe we can go through it one day.
Yeah, I haven't went through the entire thing, but you gave me the cliff notes and I was pretty excited because a lot of the stuff that me and you have been asking about, like this hasn't been explained yet in the interludes in Way of Kings. The ones we've just read a few weeks ago have maybe not answers, but the next part of those interludes are in this book. I mean, this is some pretty cool stuff. So folks, if you haven't checked it out and you want to, you can find that online. I still need to read it. I know some people we don't want us to necessarily talk about that, but most likely we will in the future, and just give a warning whenever we do. Won't be today though.
Yeah, it's crazy because like for me, I'm like, oh yeah, payoff for a few weeks ago, but it's like 14 years of payoff.
Yes.
Which is crazy. It's always weird to think Way of Kings was 2010. That's just a long time ago now.
Very long time ago. And some of the stuff that even that we end up reading today in these chapters has payoff almost a decade later, which is just
true.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Was there any other Sanderson updates? I know he's probably selling some other box or something. I feel like every week I check, he's selling something new. I'm like, my God,
is. The merch train is crazy. But
like, are all Cosmere fans just broke constantly? Because I would be.
Yeah. I mean, the stickers and all that washes over me, but the words of Radiance Leatherbound. Oof,
My
that stood
friend.
out to me. I had like the Looney Tunes heart eyes thumping. I had the very extended. Man, that trailer has like a really long black screen and just like hype sounds of a storm. I'm like, is this going to start anytime soon? And then eventually, yes, we see the glorious red themed as opposed to blue words of Radiance. And I was like, why'd he go red? Is it the Parshendi element, the Everstorm, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it could be.
I wonder what the glyph actually means, because I saw there's a new glyph on the side. I never really looked into why which glyphs are chosen for those books. But yeah, it's cool to see all the love that goes into them, all the details. And I'm keen to see which art. I saw this lovely fan art of Shallan and the Great Shell, when she jumps off the ship.
Mm-hmm.
There's like iconic fan art. You see it everywhere. They've included that in the book. And I hope one day our resident artist at Lost in Roshar, Connor, gets in one of these books one of these days, because he's great.
He deserves it. Yeah, he's a fantastic artist. Shout out to Connor.
Yeah. God, that'd be so cool. Be like, that's our podcast guy in the Leatherbound. Oof. Yeah.
Well, he's got 8 more.
Oh my God.
You just got to hang on through the decades and see if you can get included.
The last thing of the Sanderson update I will say is he did a good video with Daniel Greene in the past week or two about the publishing industry, like 5 predictions for the future of publishing, and all of Sanderson's ones were like pessimistic. Like that's just what he decided he'll do doom and gloom predictions. Mm-hmm. But he was encouraging people like to retain the rights of leatherbounds and special editions. They're like the vinyl records for the like equivalent for authors, because it's like hard to make money with all these subscription services and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point. And I know other authors who have sold a lot of books, millions of books, and talking to them, finding out that the Subterranean Press edition of their book they saw no royalties from. It's wow. Wait, what? Yeah, crazy. So definitely very important. So good thing Sanderson's casting some light on that. I feel like he's always looking out for his fellow authors, at least in some fashion, which is great, because sometimes when you get that big, you kind of forget where you came from. So.
Yeah. Is it time? Do we actually talk about these bloody chapters?
Yeah, let's do these chapters. Christian is up very late. Because he's a champion.
Mate, you're the one who's up early. I got lucky on this deal. We wouldn't have started yet, typically.
Yeah, that's actually true. Good point. Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about chapters 43 and 44 today. These are both Kaladin chapters. One is a present-day Kaladin chapter, and one is a flashback. The first one is chapter 43, called The Wretch. And the epigraph says, "They lived out in the wilds, always awaiting the desolation, or sometimes a foolish child who took no heed of the night's darkness." A child's tale, yes, but this quote from Shadows Remembered seems to hint at the truth I seek. See page 82, the 4th tale. And the wretch goes on to have Kaladin wake up dreading in despair, and Kaladin's depressed again. That's kind of what's happening, and he is saying that he is going to give up. The Almighty has simply given Kaladin another chance to prove himself as a bridgeman, nothing more. And we end up getting introduced to Bright Lord Mattel and his wife Hashel. Hopefully I'm saying those correctly. And, they're your typical light eyes. They're not very nice. Kaladin ends up getting accosted with a spear butt and has a moment where he feels like he could probably beat up all the guards in the room, but decides against it, knowing that it will only lead to him being murdered. So they get assigned a chasm duty. And we go down there with Taft and Rock and everybody else. And this is where the crew is like, "Kaladin, what's our next move?" And he's like, "I don't have one."
Yeah. And
we get our first quote of part of the Radiant Oath, "Journey before destination." Syl likes the saying and encourages Kaladin not to give up. Kaladin thinks for a while and finally decides to try again, announcing to the men that the only chance is to try to escape. He offers to train them as spearmen, hoping it will increase their poor odds of escaping. All but Rock agree. Fighting is beneath Rock. He will cook instead.
Man, I actually loved this chapter. I know not a whole lot happens, but just I don't know. I don't know really how to articulate it well. But I read it outside today, and I was just totally engrossed with the boys down in the chasm. You know.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot to like about this chapter because it's not just a turning point for Kaladin's character to decide not to give up. Not only is it kind of an introduction, I mean, we've seen it before, but like we're seeing that this is a repeating thing with Kaladin, aka a chronic thing, aka depression in its true form. But it's also a turning point for the crew, and we also get a little bit more characterization for Rock, and he won't fight, and we should wonder why that is. So you take all that and then you throw it into one of the coolest settings of in this book, which is the chasms. I mean, the chasms are so bleak and terrible and just kind of grim. And I forgot how intense that the descriptions were of it, and I was shocked by the graphic nature of it. Sometimes I forget that Sanderson can go just a bit dark. He can do it. Yeah. And it certainly comes through whenever he talks about the chasms.
Yeah, and agreed with all those points. And I also love the whole majesty of like the Knight's Radiant words coming back out, and everyone's the varying opinions on it. Because Kaladin, like you're kind of hoping that something's going on here that's going to connect to that. But you can see how Teft is definitely the odd one out, being like, oh yeah, maybe we've got the history wrong, and everyone's like, mate, what are you talking about? Too much fire moss. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about the Knights Radiant and the interpretation of what they did and why they did it, which is really, really interesting. And at one point, one of the guys said, like, basically, hey, like, what are you going to tell me next? That the Parshendi are the good guys?
Yeah.
He kind of says that. I'm trying to find the exact quote.
Yeah, right here. Insert character.
Yeah, right here. Scar says, I can't believe you're arguing about this, Tef. Scar said, exasperated. What next? Should we let the Voidbringers steal our hearts? Maybe they're just misunderstood, or the Parshendi. Maybe we should just let them kill our king, whatever they want. Which is interesting because it turns out that they did misunderstand the Parshendi.
Yeah, turns out it's just like a bald guy with a rock. Sometimes it's just a bald guy with a rock.
And then you have Rock over here, and he's laughing. He said, hi, Voidbringers, lowlander nonsense. You breathe all this air, makes your brain soft. And it's just interesting to think about this whole group of people that do not believe at all in these Voidbringers.
Yeah, like no one's really got it right. No one's really got the story quite right. Did you also catch when Syl low-key reveals she's done all this before?
Well, she says, I've killed a man. And I was like, what's that about?
I've helped men kill before. So
yeah, and she said, and I don't know why, but it was a good thing.
Sus. Is that going to hold up in court? I mean, I helped. Pretty sure.
What's up with that? So you think it's her being bonded earlier?
Yeah. We find out later that she was like she was bonded to a Radiant like ages and ages ago who died.
So she was cheating on Kaladin.
Yeah, before he was born. Yeah, we still don't accept that, but
yeah, unacceptable.
It is what it is. So that was cool to see that. The seed of that planted right away here, and very quickly like moved on from. It's just dropped on, and they're like, oh, okay, I guess she did that. I mean, going back to the start of the chapter, I'm just a sucker for any like cool Kaladin moment. So when he like caught the spear, I was like, ooh, yes. Very, very satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious his martial prowess is there. We get a lot of evidence that the Kaladin we see do some amazing things here in the near future is definitely something that makes sense for him in this world. I thought it was interesting that he ponders a lot on the Almighty. And I wanted to ask you about the Almighty. So the Almighty is essentially the god figure in Roshar, right?
Yeah.
These people and the tranquil halls and the big fights and all this stuff. So here's my question. How does that mix in with the Cosmere theology, right? Because like we know of other religions and all these things, like it's like a multi-deity universe, but like isn't there one that's above all of these things? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does this work? Because they're saying, well, when we die, we go to these places or whatever.
Yeah, right. I mean,
but do they, or do they have it wrong? I'm kind of lost on how these things connect as far as like Cosmere goes.
Well, these guys, like this part of Roshar calls, they call the Almighty, who it really is just honor. It's just that singular shard of honor, because he had a lot to do with the humans as they came over from their old terrible planet, and over time it's just like he's the dude. He's our one god. They're not really. I mean, at least the vast population is not aware of any other deal. So that's what they do. Because there's other parts of Roshar.
But does that exist? Is, I guess, what I'm saying. Like, is this like a matter of fact, like that? The Tranquil Halls actually exist. Like, do we know that?
That I think is like a. That I think there is like some sort of equivalent for it, but it's like something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It would be interesting to break down all the religions in the Cosmere. I think that would be something that would be worth it. And like, what are the similarities between all of them and which they believe in the afterlife or anything else? And then stuff that
I'm sure there's some crossover for sure.
There has to be.
I'm gonna refer to our personal notes, the Copper Mind. So the Tranquiline Halls. Says in Varan doctrine, the Tranquiline Halls are the original home of mankind, as well as the heaven to which those who are worthy to go when they die. Varanism holds that humans were driven from the Tranquiline Halls by the Voidbringers, but with the help of the Heralds, they are fighting to take back their home. So that just sounds like it's an insert for Ashyn, their first planet. That's what I'm getting from that.
So I just wonder, like, do they really go to this place? Like, and how does this place exist? I guess like other people who die on other planets that aren't Roshar don't go to this place. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if they necessarily do. I think that just might be their story.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to verify. Is that it was just simply the story that they believe.
I mean, like the next chapter had me thinking a lot about like death in the Cosmere. I think. I mean, there's a further discussion to be had there. But there are definitely like sort of hashtag death hacks in the Cosmere.
Death hacks.
Depending on like how hashtag invested you are. But like if you're more magical, you can last in certain realms, I think, a little bit longer. Like the Heralds are obviously dying but coming back. So there's something there. But with this whole Tranquiline Halls things, I think it's just playing into the origin story that like, oh yeah, people aren't actually from here. And we're going to go back and reclaim it. What I want to know about is what's going on over there on Ashyn. What does it look like?
Is someone repurposing the planet? Is it completely void?
I could see there being some sort of repurposing. I wonder if it's ever going to show up in Stormlight. For sure it's going to show up in some secondary content, but I don't know about the main series if there's room
if they go
for
back.
It. I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's definitely going to show up in the flashbacks for the Heralds when they're POV characters.
Is there a chance that they could take things from Roshar with the Fabrial magic and everything and be able to make measures and like terraform Ashyn later?
That could be cool.
And then after this book 5 travesty that's going to happen and people are scattered, like maybe some people leave Roshar.
Ooh. I mean,
like a mass evacuation type deal.
Yeah, I mean, would you evacuate to your old place though? That's the thing. You'd probably.
It's the only place you know, I guess. How did they pick Roshar?
No, I guess it's just. Yeah, that's another great question. It was just like the closest available. When you look at the star chart, it's just like Ashyn, Braze, where the Heralds go to like get tortured, and Roshar. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and was there a chance that someone made this happen? Like, and what I mean, but I know they blamed it on the humans, but like, could there have been nefarious forces that put them in this position? Like they wanted to get these people specifically on Roshar?
Well, the story goes is like they were experimenting with surge binding and magic too much to the point that it caused destruction. And supposedly the Herald Ishar, as well as being the person who got them off the planet, may have had something to do with those experiments. He's the one that we see like mucking around with Spren and doing weird experiments at the end of Rhythm of War. He's an absolute nutter. And Jake's theory was that he was going to be the champion, Odium's champion. So,
I kind of like that.
I wonder. Yeah, I think the origin story will definitely be a very long awaited payoff that we're going to see in the later books.
You don't think it'll be book 5?
No, I don't think so.
Then I'm not reading it. No, did you notice the foreshadowing that Kaladin's going to fly?
Oh, when he's thinking about, he's like, I could fly for a few beautiful seconds or something like that.
A short time later, Kaladin stood at the edge of the chasm looking down. The hot light of the noon sun burned the back of his neck and cast his shadow downward into the rift to join with those below. I could fly, he thought, step off and fall, wind blowing against me, fly for a few moments, a few beautiful moments. And he does just that, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's true. And it reminds me, I mean, I ended up reading the chapter in Rhythm of War because of because the next chapter with Tien Horse and everything made me go to Rhythm of War, right?
Yeah.
And he does he does that moment, like, because in here he's thinking about doing it just to kill himself. And that's what he does in Rhythm of War. Like he jumps off the top of the tower with that intention entirely. And reading that scene just after reading this chapter was wild, because you're like, this is 4 books later and we're back here, you know.
There's so much in book 4 that I forget, and I can't wait to get there in 7 years when we finally.
Dude, I legitimately cried just reading that one chapter by itself with like no context today, and I'm just like, yeah, man, this series is it takes you there.
Yeah,
right now,
this is the jam.
Yeah, it's my jam.
It's awesome.
But yeah, I'll talk about that more next chapter. I don't know. It was just like as hopeless as it felt. It was a very calm chapter. I don't know why. I just felt very calm.
Calm. Let me read this, folks. I'm going to read this paragraph, and you tell me what's calm about
do the pile of bodies. Don't you do that one? That's
the bodies were piled there. A wall of the dead, arms hanging out, reeds and flotsam stuffed between them. Kaladin saw at a glance that the corpses were old enough to begin bloating and rotting. So comforting, Christian.
You know
behind him, one of the men retched, which caused a few of the others to do so as well. The scent was terrible. The corpses slashed and ripped into by cremlings and larger carrion beasts, many of which scuttled away from the light. A disembodied hand lay nearby, and a trail of blood led away. And there goes my alarm to wake up to do the podcast in the middle of my... So yeah, and it talks about a chasm fiend ripped one of the bodies loose to devour, all this stuff. So what about that comforts you, Christian? I'm curious.
You know what? This all started my love for fantasy. Hey, A Song of Ice and Fire, Joe Abercrombie. You know what? I felt right at home. This is great. This is
loaded corpses are your vibe.
Huh? I'm just like, I pulled up my blanket. I'm like, yeah, this is what reading is all about. Okay, yes, you've made your point, Jimmy. Everyone's laughing, ha ha ha. But look, something about the boys getting down together, a bit of banter. The Knights raiding and coming back. Tef's like,
being slaves,
on, yeah, it's really... like you know, just some bonding time in the chasm duty.
Oh my goodness!
A few bloated corpses aren't gonna bring my mood down. Okay.
Oh my goodness! I mean,
maybe and the chapter was not okay.
I do. There's a melancholy, which at times can almost have a catharsis to it.
That's it. Yeah.
And this does have this. I mean, they are interacting. You're seeing the relationships form tighter bonds. Kaladin go through his stuff, and Teft really coming to life in this chapter as well. And then clearly you have the moment where a small rock, and I actually wanted to ask you about this. So in this paragraph, it starts out like this. Kaladin's walking around. He says his foot hit something. He bent down and picked it up, a small rock. He could barely make it out in the darkness. He recognized what was happening to him, this melancholy, this sense of despair. It had taken him often when he'd been younger, most frequently during weeks of the weeping when the sky was hidden by clouds. Now, this is the interesting part. During those times, Tien had cheered him up and helped him pull out of his despair. Tien had always been able to do that. So my question here is, him seeing a small rock reminded him of Tien, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously the despair he's talking about is depression, which it doesn't have the name, right there, but that's definitely what it is. And this is where he kind of turns around, and Tien is providing him hope even while being dead.
Yeah. Look, I wanted to make this a magic moment, but I think it was just like a smooth way of like, okay, he hits a rock, Tien.
Yeah, this is a character moment. This is a thematic moment. Less so than a really conspiracy theory rabbit hole, unfortunately.
I want to mention, look, love Bridge 4, but there's like always like a few members, and I'm like, what? Who are you? Like
Scar? I didn't remember him.
Scar I only remember because of the K. If he had a C, he wouldn't be in my memory. But you know what? I was like so engrossed in this chapter, and it's like, we're bound to end up dead anyway, Maps noted. You said so yourself. Several of the others nodded. Kaladin took a deep breath. We have to try to escape. And then I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And then it goes, but the war camp is guarded, said Earless Jax. I'm like, Earless Jax? Excuse me? I just imagine this random guy, like the camera pans to the right.
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
It's Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it seriously felt like that. Where I'm like, in this scene, camera pans, Earless Jax. Like, did I just change to like Borderlands or something? It just felt so random. It felt like a Borderlands name. I mean, this is my great contribution to the chapter discussion. Yeah.
I mean, you're right though. There's so many people that are mentioned in this book. I'm like, who the hell is this? And then like in the Coppermind, it always tells you the characters that are in the chapter, and it's always like 30 characters. Like, just mention, like, who are these people?
I remember on the A Song of Ice and Fire wiki, when you search John, there's like 35 Johns.
Oh, I mean, George loves repeating names. It's actually hilarious. Yeah. Like 8 Brandon Starks.
Yeah. He's like,
I kind of love it, though, because it's realistic.
Stark family.
People do rename, use the same names over and over and over. Like, I'm the 3rd or 4th James in my family.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Whereas Sanderson's, you know what? I could just do another Adolin. But you know what? Earless Jax.
Or that the guy who brought Kaladin to the camp.
Gaz.
That didn't have any vowels.
TWOK.
Yeah, what a dumb name.
Dude,
I'm still upset.
Hash is my fave.
Gas Hash.
Gas Hash is the top. You know what? I think at the end of 2023, we need like a top 10 Lost in Roshar moments. That's what I want.
Oh, a clip show. Everyone does a clip show.
Yeah. Do we ever release the bloopers?
I was about to say, maybe we should do the ones that we've edited out, except then we'll get an NC-17 tag on it.
Yeah, I don't know if we can make it. We need to do the Patreon exclusive.
Just have to fill it up, man. So,
Lost in Roshar Uncut.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be the unreleased.
Yeah.
One day when we do like a golden vinyl record of all of our recordings.
The archive.
Oh, that's what we should have called the podcast. The archive.
The Stormlight Archive? Is that taken?
Dude, that's so based. I love it.
Yeah. I got a question for you.
Okay.
Why is it called the Stormlight Archive?
Well, I've said this before. So
okay.
Well, no, but I've said, the Stormlight Archive and the fact that it's kind of translated, it gives you this idea that someone recorded this book. Like, who is telling us the story?
There's
And I
that
think we speculated it was the
interpretation.
Kremlins.
I mean, see that, I love that. But then there's the other side, which I think we're going to find out why it's called the Stormlight Archive next book. Because I think Stormlight's gone, and we've got to archive it. Like, we've got to keep a reserve.
Oh, and then they're trying to figure out what happened. Where was it? How did we use it? How do we get it back?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're on the money.
Yeah,
Dead on the money.
I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. Yeah,
and it's kind of a boss move to name a series something that doesn't really become clear until
the title's a spoiler.
Yeah.
There will be at least one person on the internet that says that after book 5 is released. They'll say, you can't say.
Actually,
let me adjust my glasses. Sorry if it's you who's listening.
So sorry if you're just adjusting your glasses.
Nerd.
We're all inclusive here. I mean, Jimmy's literally adjusting his glasses. So
I am. They fall down quite frequently. We're in the chapter 44 now. By the way, Kaladin says, hey, we got to find our way out. We're going to escape. Rock's like, nah. Everyone else is like, we'll do it. And that sets off, the bridge for evolution. So we get into chapter 44. This is a flashback. Unfortunately, no epigraph, which are my favorite parts of the chapters, but it is 5 years ago. And this one is kind of strange in some ways. But the summary goes like this. Kaladin lays on the roof after making a temporary repair. Tien joins him and gives him a beautifully carved wooden horse. Kaladin worries because his father had to spend another sphere. Their mother comes out and joins them, trying to alleviate his concerns. The only reason he spent one was to try to bluff Roshar into thinking they were growing desperate. They discuss his future prospects, including the possibility of pursuing other professions, but Kaladin is set on becoming a surgeon like his father. Liren comes out and tells them there is a gathering in the square. When they arrive, they notice that Laeral is engaged, apparently to Roshar himself. Kaladin is appalled and starts forward to quote-unquote stop it. But Liren tells him to stand down. Roshar announces that Amaram is here to recruit and several young men volunteer. The quota is not met, however, so Amaram tells Roshar to read the list of conscripts. This is where Tien is selected for the army, in which Kaladin knows that the only way that he can protect him is to join him because he cannot replace him. And this is clearly Roshar being vindictive. And at the end, we see Liren and Hasina crying because they have not just lost Tien, but now they will lose Kaladin as well. Kaladin swears an oath that he'll bring back Tien in 4 years. Yikes.
Brutal. Yikes.
Yeah. So this whole thing is set up with a paragraph that I'll read, and it kind of sets the tone for this chapter. So Kaladin hated the weeping. It marked the end of an old year and the coming of a new one. 4 solid weeks of rain and a ceaseless cascade of sullen drops. Never furious, never passionate like a high storm. Slow, steady, like the blood of a dying year that was taking its last few shambling steps towards the cairn. While other seasons of weather came and went unpredictably, the weeping never failed to return at the same time each year, unfortunately. And that kind of paints this like gray, sad picture, which is funny because it's then countered by Kaladin on the roof, Tien coming out, Hasina coming out, and then Liren coming out. It's like this weird family reunion on the roof.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very weird picture to think about.
It was very sweet how they all kept joining.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah. It's just yeah, how far could you take it?
Yeah. It's like, hey, everybody. Like, I just, what are you guys doing up there?
It's Earless Jax. Hey, guys. Hey, what you doing looking at the rain?
This is crazy.
I want Earless Jax inserted in every emotional scene.
I agree.
This chapter is dense with my kind of stuff, man.
Yeah, I was to say, I'm going to let you take the reins here, metaphorically and literally on this wooden horse. What's the deal? You like that? That was good.
Yeah, I want to. That's the new Lost in Roshar background. Me and you on the wooden horse with the reins.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah. Better than you eating me, jeez. Okay, look, lots of Tien weirdness. So, like, he's working as a carpenter's apprentice. and they're dissatisfied with his work because he gets distracted easily. What's he distracted by? Everything, because he's a light weaver and everything looks better. Okay, moving on. Now, I immediately perked up. Did you remember, did this horse, you're like, oh yes, Rhythm of War. Did you also remember this whole thing?
I knew that it was significant, and I think we've actually even talked about it before because it ends up being given to somebody or given back to him or something like that. Why don't you remind me?
Okay, it's freaking wild, and the fandom hasn't even gotten a straight answer on this, or like a consensus is probably a better word. So in Rhythm of War, Kaladin's, at his wit's end, and he's at the top of Urithiru, and he jumps, and it's like the moment where all hope is lost. He thinks he's lost his dad. Teft has just died. All this has gone down, and Dalinar sees him in the storm with the Stormfather. The Stormfather first gets a hold of Kaladin, and it's like, dude, say the fourth ideal. And Kaladin's like, nah, dude, I'm not doing it. I'm done. He's like in his full on, this is it. I'm done with life. And then Dalinar convinces the Stormfather to go back to Kaladin, and then Dalinar does some bondsmith magic and forges a connection because he feels some warmth in the area. And then Kaladin is transported back to the army on the day that Tien died, but he's talking to Tien, and Tien already knows the events of what's happened. And then the whole army scene disappears, and it's just like Tien and Kaladin talking about like why he couldn't save him, and this whole lovely brotherly conversation. And Tien's like encouraging him to like, not give up. And then a funky thing happens where like it shows grown up Tien, and then Kaladin goes to his childhood self, and they hug, and he gives him this horse. And he's like, don't lose it this time, brother. I worked hard on that thing.
And it's physically with him when he comes back.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's in the vision. And then like chapters later, he finds it. Yeah, he finds it physically. So it's like, what? Because at first you're like, oh, cool, funky Cosmere vision stuff. But then you're like, but the horse is there. So,
and it's just strange because I'm pretty sure like time travel is out of the question in Cosmere. I believe Brandon has said that. I'm pretty sure. So like,
yeah,
right. What is going on?
Yeah. So for me, I felt like I had a clear idea. I felt like I kind of got it until and look, I actually did reread the chapter whenever Kaladin finds it in person, but I'm like 99% sure that does happen. So, but that's where it throws everything, all the theories out of the window, because there's no clear reason of how that could happen.
Yeah, this is one of the bigger question marks for the series.
Yeah, because it's like, how is a person who's very clearly dead for many years able to have some sort of conversation with Kaladin? They're the only. So we've got the physical realm, we've got the cognitive realm of Shadesmar, and we've got the spiritual realm. And Sanderson said everything in the spiritual realm is happening at once. Like time is everything's at once, and everything is nowhere. So theoretically, you could pull anyone from any point in time from there. I don't know if that's what Dalinar's done there. It seems like too crazy for me.
Yeah, but also like just Tien being grown up.
Yeah, right. So is that an alternate timeline thing where it's like, yeah, exactly. Great point.
Yeah, someone can let us know, people who are listening, because I'm like 99% sure Brandon has said that there's no going back in time. Like time travel is not a thing. Pretty sure he even says it in text in some of the books. But would alternate timelines be banned?
I don't know.
So hear me out, because even though it isn't time travel, it is then saying that there would be different planes to travel to. I don't know. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive, but they're both out there, I guess. They're both bending the rules of the perception of what we're reading. So like, It has to be what this is, though.
It's curious to me because it's like one of the bigger mysteries of the series, and no one's really talking about it.
Maybe it's just a vision, and he finds it.
I guess that's what most people are just like. Yeah, it's a vision, and then, but like, how is it there? What the hell? Like, because I was like, is this an actual? Stupidly, I was like, is this a magical horse thing? I don't think so.
Well, we've also talked about the Almighty on this episode now, right?
Mm.
And the afterlife, and like, what's that look like? And maybe when people go to the afterlife, they continue their life.
Well, the thing is, right? I think there's a crossover point because also Teft speaks to him briefly in that scene, who had just died. He's like, come on, lad, say the words, or something like that. So there seems to be a brief moment where you're still kind of around, but not. But like Tien is years gone. That's why it's very curious.
Well, he's all grown up now.
Yeah. Well, we know he was going to be a light weaver. Does that mean he can stick around a bit longer? But I don't know if he's going to stick around like however many years longer this is. Anyway, it's very curious, and I that's all I was thinking about as I read this chapter, and he shows this, and then I was like, how was he so skilled to do that? Was he just a talented little carpenter, or is there like more to the? Is it a light weaving?
It's like has to be something with light weaving or some significance. And like, why a horse?
I mean, Kaladin's like straight up blown away. He's like, how did you even do this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. It's like crazy. Almost like Tien is like reincarnated or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like Tien has past experiences or some. I don't know. It's a very strange.
Because like, yeah, because it says this. It says, so many objections rose in his mind, but Tien's smile banished them. There, in the midst of the dreariest part of the year, Kaladin felt for a moment as if he had glimpsed sunshine. He could swear he felt things grow brighter around them, the storm retreating a shade, the sky lightening. Like, come on.
Yeah, and not to mention, to throw some more, conspiracy-minded stuff here. The next chapter we get Kaladin in is called Child of Tanavast.
Oh man, that chapter's huge.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, it's, I don't know.
Because Hesina also talks about her family here. How she's like,
that was my next point.
Yeah.
That was my next point right here. She's talking about the possibilities. She said, the world is changing. My family's most recent letters describing amazing fabrials like pens that can write across great distances. It might not be long before men are taught to read, which, by the way, is hilarious. Men might even read whenever they're like figuring out, how to send emails. But Hesina's family is something we've talked about a lot. They're sending letters.
Hesina herself is a wild card because Kaladin's like, why can't you just be normal and tell me to go inside? Why is she so quirky and sitting up on the roof with us? But beyond that, so before we got to the span read part, I was like, how are they? Because it says that she'd been talking to her family. It didn't confirm how. So they're sending letters. It also says they've offered her spheres. So they've got a bit of cash to spare. And when Kaladin's like saying, when she's saying all these career possibilities for Kaladin, she's like, you could be a Storm Warden. And he's like, oh, but they're trying to see the future, which is like a big no-no in their religion. She's like, it's not the same thing. You'll see. I don't know. I just feel like she's just very clued in.
Yeah, she's definitely has more knowledge than it would seem at this point in the story. But on a reread, I think she has a good idea of more than we do. And Storm Warden is something I had like completely forgotten about, by the way. Like, I forgot that existed. Yeah,
the guys like who do maths and they're like, oh, stop that.
Yeah, what a job.
Yeah. I found it so weird that they had umbrellas. That's my point. I was like, they have umbrellas?
Cardboard exists in Roshar?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the umbrellas threw me. I'm like, how'd they make an umbrella? What does this umbrella look like?
That's a good question.
I get hung up on these little things. But Amram To be fair, for one of the few times Amaram seemed all right here.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, you know what? Amaram was more maybe not likable but passable in this chapter than I remembered.
He's like, oh, Roshan with your little village politics. He's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll make Tien my cupbearer or whatever, to use the Westeros term. But yeah.
So here's a question. Do you think in this moment Kaladin made the wrong decision or the right decision?
Big question. The part of me who's a fan of the series says that's absolutely the right decision. The part of me that's a fan of Kaladin, it's a terrible decision. It's very heroic and very noble, and I felt I got a little ting of emotion when Tien was thanking him for doing it, and he promised to bring him back. But I mean, yeah, and part of it is because I know how it goes down, but also it's like, what are you going to do? You can't protect him forever. You could do a lot for your family if you stayed.
Yeah, I think Liren was kind of in the right here. I know people like hate on Liren a lot, but it's like just watching your family sabotage itself like right in front of you would be very difficult. And I think also Liren is accepting of the treachery of this world and the injustices. And even though clearly he does not want Tien to go, he doesn't want any of this stuff to happen, he's thinking in his head probably, well, if I get one boy through this, then that's success in this world. And unfortunately for him, Kaladin is of the mind that he needs to go and protect Tien. And, Kaladin eventually fails and Tien does die. So it's just, I don't know. It's really tough. And I think this is a big moment for Liren and Kaladin's relationship.
I mean, it's the last, I don't think we get another Kaladin and Liren scene until books later. I don't know if there is I think this is the goodbye scene with them walking off crying, and Kaladin's like, I promise I'll bring him back. Freaking brutal.
Yeah,
this being acted out is going to be heavy.
Yeah. I remember just being like, I wonder what Liren and Hesina are up to for like so long. Like I was like, oh, what's going on there? The one thing I will say about Hesina is like, I know we've went like way down the rabbit hole of like who she could be, what she could be. We talked about like, what if she's related to her or whatever. But I mean, one, I do think that she has good knowledge of something going on, right? Not saying she knows everything, but I'm just saying she clearly has some mysterious ties in her family. But I think an argument against her being super significant is the fact that she didn't stop this.
Well, but how would you though? Like what option do you really have?
Well, and that's fair. And maybe, and also who's to say that she knows that she could be someone of importance? Maybe she doesn't know.
I think we've got to tell her what's up. She doesn't know. Someone should tell her. But look, it was revenge ain't satisfying, as we saw with Roshar. I got so annoyed though when he started laughing extra hard when Kaladin like offered himself up. I'm like, you little.
Yeah, he's dastardly, dude.
Yeah, he's dastardly Roshar.
Yeah, a real bag of crap, that guy.
Yeah, and Laral, who somehow forms some sort of connection with him. But yeah, very depressing chapters. Calm, some might say. Anyone
endearing.
Yeah, endearing. But look, we've got some absolute bangers coming up. Shadesmar, Child of Tanavast, full steam ahead.
These next two, we've been doing 3 when we can. These next 2 are very long. I think the first chapter by itself is like 20 or more pages, and there's going to be plenty to talk about in those 2 chapters.
Oh my gosh, so much. I know it's a slow burn, guys, but Jimmy and I were saying like there's just a lot to talk about. And look, regardless of whatever happens, as soon as that 5th book drops, the reread, it's not like we're going to be like, all right, chapter 3 of Words of Radiance. Like, no, it'll be all steam ahead on book 5.
Yeah, when book 5 comes out, the reread will be paused and we will be doing book 5 content for sure.
Yeah.
Which I think is acceptable. This is a reread podcast first and foremost, right? So it's not like we're abandoning a bunch of readers who haven't read the other books. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the first time read through. No. We're just like jumping ahead. Everyone that's listening to the podcast should have read the other 4. Therefore, when 5 comes out, it's safe to say that us and all of our listeners would be reading the book at the same time. So it'll be a lot of fun. We're 1 year away.
Send us an email if you haven't read any Stormlight and you're just here for the journey.
For the banter.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's all for this week. Did you have anything else on this?
No, I think that's it. I'll be excited to see Shallan again. But we are definitely getting to the meatier parts of Kaladin's arc in this book.
Yeah, I feel the Kaladin takeover happening, and to be honest, I'm all for it. I want Shallan to have some tougher competition this time. But yes, if you, as always, I almost read your part, Jimmy. Jeez, 1 week away, and I've already messed it up. As always, guys, thanks for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next week to dive into chapters 45 and 46.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. And if you have any theories, spam read us at lostandroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar. And remember to keep those safe hands covered.